Hello, and welcome to my code walkthrough and demonstration for Milestone 2 of Application Programming 2. As we can see, this is my code for Milestone 2. Let's go ahead and run it, make sure that it works. It does. Upon startup, the application creates two new contacts. This is supposed to act as if when we have the file input system to read from a text file, it would create these new contacts and put them into the contact list. These two are created as new contacts as if a user were to use the new contact option and input something new. This is done just in the console app portion of the code. In this section here, this is supposed to act as if I had this in an actual text Android application, in which the contact app would most likely outsource certain tasks to different applications that are default on the phone, such as here, text messaging someone, calling someone, opening up the email app to compose an email, or even opening up the browser to visit a website of a certain contact. In this section, we're just changing different attributes as if you're editing a contact. Here we change the email, the state as if somebody moved, or the website or URL of a company as if they changed it or updated it, as if they bought a new domain. Here's a current ordered list of all contacts that are already in there. We can see the first two, Habburger and Aiden, that were first loaded. And then we see two new ones, which are Ian Hagen and McDonald's. Or Ian Hagen and Habburger. In this situation, we need to delete a contact because it wasn't needed anymore. So we remove a contact using the address book class. And then, as we can see in the ordered updated list, there's no longer habit contact in there. In this section, we demonstrate how my address book implements different ways of searching for a contact using different methods, such as the name, email, or city, and finding the contact that it's looking for. Let's go ahead and look at how it does that. So I used a combination of hash maps, tree maps, and array lists to work with my address book. We can see I have not worked completely how I'm gonna make this better. I hope to not have so many different hash maps. This is just to make it easier. I'll probably change it in the future. I also haven't dealt with collisions very well, so I want to work on that in the future before the next milestone is finished. But for the search, it's fairly simple. Hash maps have a search function in which you give it a key and it finds whatever data you put as the value. So I made it easy when it came for the name, email, city, and country because I created separate hash maps for those. However, when it came to the birthday, I wanted to test if I could do it in a different, more longer search method, as going through an array takes a lot longer than using a hash function to search for something within a hash map or a hash table. So I did that for birthday. It reliably works and it returns a array list. It's slower, but it's not noticeable when there's very little contacts. That's the reason I used hash maps, because I wanted to use hash tables to create a faster search or search and storage method for retrieving data. I don't know how well that will save when we learn file IO. Or how to implement the file IO service. I'll probably change that if I can't learn how to use hash maps or hash tables with it. But for now, this works, and my plan is for it to be, for my contact app to be able to search, find as fast as possible. So it adds contacts just using the built-in commands you would have with hash maps in Java. So it just uses put if absent. That is simply a easy way to deal with collisions right now. So right now, if two things have the same key, it will only take whatever the first one that was put in. So if two people had the same email, city, or country, or even name, then it would not put it into the hash map, unfortunately. But once I've learned how to deal with the collisions, I'll hopefully implement that, or I will implement it. Removing a contact is easy. It's just you give it the key. You could either put in a contact to make that easier when I'm coding in the future, or you could just input a name if you wanted to input a name. I don't know when that will be useful, because in an application it will probably be built into the page or window to delete it, which would already have the contact base contact object open, so I could probably just send that. Get contact is fairly simple. Given a string, it searches through for that key, and then it will give it back. It's just a very basic search function. This is used for other functions or methods within my program. Get favorites is for later implementation to have a favorites list. Each one of my contacts has within the base contact, parent class has a favorite boolean. So that way, in the application, you can just navigate to your favorites. That way you can just find whatever you're looking for as fast as possible, as that's my goal in my app. Load favorites can just be moved up, but I worked on load favorites before get favorites. So just want to, I'll probably move that up in the future, but they work together to both first load the favorites into an array, and then get favorites just returns that array, or array list. Get businesses does the same thing as get favorites. It searches through, looks for anything that is business class. If not, it won't add it to an empty temporary array. And then in the end, once it gets all the businesses, it puts it into the array and sends it back. Same thing works for get people. In my base app, there's going to be two base groups, people and businesses. That way you can search through quicker if you can go through groups if you're looking for certain things. These are just two base groups. I'll later work on a function to find different groups for each contact. Here's my sorting methods. It takes the hash map of whatever is desired to be searched. So so far I only implemented name and email, but I plan to add my other hash maps to it. So what it does is it dumps all of the data from hash maps into a new hash tree, or tree map. And tree maps are already sorted, so it dumps into there, and then I add that to, I go through the tree map and add it all to a array list, and that's represented in this. So if the function is requested for ascending order, it will run through and add it, appending each new item. But if it's in descending order, it will push it to the front of the array to index 0. and it'll keep doing that until the last item is at the beginning for descending order. And then finally we have search for, which I already went over. I suppose we should go over the contact classes. This is my base contact, which just has setters and getters for all of these values up here. Fairly simple. Business contact is pretty much exactly the same thing, except I added getters and setters for hours in URL for business, and the person contact pretty much exactly the same, with a birthday and description this time. That way you can describe your friend and also keep track of what their birthday is. That way you don't forget it all the time. We already went over address book, so let's just go over business service, data access service, and file IO service. So business service is, according to the directions and what I understood, is just meant to be a way to hold all our contracts into one address book and then save and load it, which I believe implements the file IO service, which the file IO service is supposed to act as being able to read from your phone's file system and write to your phone's file system to save your contacts in between usages. That way when you close the app you don't lose all your contacts. File IO service also implements the data access service interface, which is very rudimentary, but is meant to be the interface for both the database storage service and the phone file IO service. So, we'll get there eventually with those two. And finally we have the console app, which is just running through everything that I displayed earlier. Thanks for watching my video, and have a nice night.